Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started here now that it's 8:32. I think we still have a few more folks rolling in from the waiting room, and that's totally fine. I know it's early, so thanks for being here with us. My name is Lieutenant Walker. I'm with the Air Force College ROTC program, and I'm joined today by two other representatives, one from Officer Training School sessions and the other from the Air Force Academy. And we'll talk about what all these different programs are and how they fit into the commissioning picture. I want to let you know that this morning I'd like this to be as interactive as possible rather than just me talking at you and the rest of us just talking at you. We want this to be an opportunity for you to ask questions if you have questions, but we're also respectful of your time. So how this is going to work is we'll each give a presentation just for a few minutes, about 10 minutes each on each of the commissioning programs, and then we'll open it up for discussion questions. And then at the end, we'll be done here at 9:30. Not going to keep you more than an hour, but if you have more questions, especially about particular students, if you have students in mind applying for this stuff, you want to get into the nitty gritty, well, we can answer those questions for you. So we'll be on as long as it takes. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Lieutenant Walker. I'm with the Air Force ROTC program. And I recently graduated from University of Delaware and commissioned out of the program myself last May. I studied computer science there, also was a research assistant on the campus there for computer science stuff. And I also worked a job at IT, which was a lot of fun because I got to do stuff in the classroom and then go, get the hands-on experience right there on campus. I'm currently up here as the Scholarship and Admissions Officer. So I work with students and with counselors to inform them about the opportunities that we have in the program. It's not like I have a quota, like I'm trying to get students to enlist or sign documents once they graduate high school. I'm just trying to tell them about the scholarship opportunities that may be available to them. I'm stationed here at Boston University, so their ROTC program. And once I'm finished here, I'm headed down to Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi to start my training as a cyberspace operations officer. So I'm going to give you guys just a brief overview on the Air Force in general, which I think will help kind of set up the OTS and the Air Force Academy presentations in that regard, because it's helpful to know sort of where the Air Force fits into the picture along with the other military branches. So our mission is unique in the way that we focus on the three domains of airspace and cyberspace. That means that contrary to popular belief, it's not just becoming a pilot, in the Air Force. There's many career opportunities that are in support or administrative functions. Things like cyberspace operations, that's my career field. We have people who are in the law career field. So like you've heard of the JAG Corps probably. People who are in medical, people who are in finance. I mean, the list goes on and on. So that's one of the common misconceptions talking to students. They think if they join the Air Force, if they join another branch, they're going to be given an AK-47 and sent down range. And that's not, that if you want to do that, that opportunity exists to be in a combat role. But most of the Air Force career fields are administrative and supportive in that regard. So another distinction too is the officers versus enlisted. And I sort of like to go over this. My best sort of metaphor, if you will, is if you think about aircraft maintenance, one of the career fields we have, the enlisted personnel are going to be the technical experts in that career field, and they'll be out working with the airplane machinery like on the flight line. Whereas the officers are going to be sort of approaching that mission set, supporting that mission set in a manager leadership type of role. So it's just two sides to the same coin. One's not better than the other. They're just different. Blue collar, white collar kind of distinction is sort of how I like to think about it. And so the three programs that you're hearing from today, this morning, are all officer accessions programs. To be an officer in the Air Force, you have to have a four-year college degree. And again, there's difference in compensation as well. Okay, so how does Air Force ROTC fit into this picture? We have three commissioning programs, and ROTC is one of them. So Air Force ROTC is more or less a part-time internship that students can enroll in and participate in on the college campus of their choice. So like I said, I went to University of Delaware. I'm with Boston University. There's over 1,100 schools throughout the US that have our program. It's a 3 to 4 year program. So if students want to wait to explore it once they've done a year in college, they can do that. And they can join their sophomore year. There are some advantages to joining freshman year, like the scholarship programs, and we'll talk about those. But there's basically 3 elements to the program instruction. There's a 1 to 3 credit aerospace studies course that we enroll our students in. It's a 1 credit course their freshman and sophomore year, bumps up to a 3 credit course their junior and senior year. Leadership laboratory, which is a hands-on leadership and communication skills building environment, and then physical training, which we normally do pretty early in the morning. It's about 2 or 3 times a week. Just a timeline overview there, I think is helpful. The only summer activities that we require for students, there's only one actually. It's called field training, and it's an assessment period between their sophomore and junior year in college. So students get sent down to typically to Maxwell Air Force Base for 2 weeks. It's sort of run like boot camp, but it's basically an assessment period for the skills that they've learned in the first 2 years of the program. There's other opportunities that they can participate in the summer if they wish. We have a lot of what we call professional development training opportunities. One of them is called Project Global Officer. There's like a whole list, and I could spend a whole 20 minutes talking about all the cool things you can do, but I just wanted to pick out Project Global Officer because I think that's probably one of the coolest ones. We send students overseas to immerse themselves in a culture, learn a language, and it's all paid for by the Department of Defense. It's normally like a month or 2 in the summer. Again, completely optional. They don't have to go, but there's opportunities like that they can take advantage of while in the program. Once students graduate from our program, they're looking at a 4-year active duty service commitment. They incur that commitment if they start their junior year, or if they receive a scholarship offer and sign for that earlier than their junior year. So essentially, there's no commitment until either of those things happen. There are some career fields that require additional service commitments, like 6 to 10 years for what we call rated career fields. Those are sort of those combat roles, or if they want to become a pilot, they're looking at longer time. There's other career fields that also carry that additional service commitment. When I was in, I can't speak to the way it works specifically now, though I believe it to be the same. You had to opt for those rated career fields. So if you didn't want to give that extra service time, you wanted to do the 4 years and dip, you can do that. And you can continue to serve if you want to make a career out of it, but a lot of students use this as a launch pad to pay for college and to sort of get out and break into the professional world. All right, so probably the most important information. This has to do with our high school scholarship program and will be relevant information for your juniors this year, so the class of 2022. The class of 2021, their high school scholarship program just concluded. The deadline for that was in January, but our high school scholarship program for the junior class is going to open on July 1st. So that's a date to keep in mind. We have 3 different types of scholarships. They're all there. And I know you guys can read, so I'll just quickly say that the type 1 pays for full tuition and fees. And you know, that goes down to a type 7, which is public school only at the in-state rate. Air Force ROTC will never pay for room and board, but there are schools that try to incentivize students to take the ROTC scholarship at their school. So speaking from experience, University of Delaware pays for room and board for students who receive an ROTC scholarship. I know Boston University has a similar arrangement. There's a good number of schools that do, but it depends on the school, and so that's sort of on the students' initiative to research that. But this scholarship process is independent and separate from the college admissions process. So it's contingent on the student being accepted to a college in order to actually activate that scholarship. Another takeaway here, I know I talked about the active duty service commitments on the last slide. When it comes to the high school scholarship program, which in a sense is front loading the work, the students, trying to apply for that scholarship and compete for it before they even show up on the campus or join the ROTC program, they can do the first year. If they get a 4-year scholarship offer, they can do the first year, and at any point they change their mind before they start the second year, they can actually, renege and rip up their scholarship offer, and they don't owe any military service, and they don't pay back that first year. So it's really a zero, risk obligation for that first year. This was sort of the selling point for me because I wasn't sure what to expect as somebody not coming from a military family. Like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I was grateful to sort of have that first year to try it out. Last slide here before we wrap up and get into some questions. Our high school scholarship program is fairly competitive. We have a 1240 SAT score requirement, although on average students who are offered a scholarship are looking at a higher 1300 score. Same for ACT, it's 26 minimum, but 31 is the average. And then GPA is that last requirement there, 3.0 unweighted, but 3.7 is the average. Now, we have thousands of students apply for this scholarship every year, and 2 out of 3 students who meet the minimum eligibility requirements get an offer, which is great. They don't have to accept it, right? And even if they do accept it, if it's that 4-year offer, they get that first year to try it. So even if students are maybe not sure, they're not considering military options, again, I think it's important to keep in mind that this is a commissioning program, not an enlisting program, which means you have to go to college. There's that expectation there that you're going to be pursuing a leadership role as opposed to a very technical, skills-based role, and also that you're going to be able to compete for these scholarship opportunities. Like I said, it opens on July 1st, and don't worry about this link. I'll make sure you guys have it. I'll send it to you afterwards here. And there we go. We made it. I think just in time for a few questions. I don't want to dig too much into Lieutenant Wood's presentation, but if there are any questions, please virtually raise your hand or just come off of mute, whatever's easy for you. I'm happy to answer those for you. No questions? Clear as mud? Okay. Lieutenant Wood, I'll hand it over to you. And yeah, if anybody does have questions, feel free to just, you can send me a message in the chat or send us all a message in the chat. One of us will reply.
Excellent. Thank you, Lieutenant Walker. Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Brendan Wood, an admissions advisor for the Air Force Academy. Lieutenant Walker, if you noticed, I was coming in and out because I was having audio issues. So I take it that everything you previously presented was awesome and obviously did a great job talking about ROTC. I'm going to move forward and talk about some opportunities to apply to the Air Force Academy and try to highlight some of the differences between the Air Force Academy and maybe what it would be like to commission through ROTC programs. Do we see my slides? Awesome, cool. All right, so as I mentioned before, I'm an admissions advisor for the Air Force Academy. My role as an admissions advisor is to assist students with the application process and also participate in outreach opportunities to spread the word about the Air Force Academy, what we have to offer. We are a 4-year accredited university located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and similar to other service academies like West Point or Annapolis, the Naval Academy or the Military Academy, which you may or may not have heard of. We do commission second lieutenants now into the United States Air and Space Forces, which is a very new and exciting opportunity that we now have at the Air Force Academy. Here's our gorgeous campus here in Colorado Springs. I certainly felt like I took it for granted, just being where we were located out in Colorado. I also didn't have the most traditional route into the Air Force Academy. I was prior enlisted myself. So when I applied, I didn't apply directly out of high school. I applied after already being on active duty in the Air Force and was fortunate for the opportunity to attend the Air Force Academy. That's often reserved to a handful of us each and every year to come off of active duty. But there's our beautiful campus located in Colorado Springs. Our mission to educate, train, and inspire men and women to become officers of character, motivated to lead the United States Air and Space Forces in service to our nation. Again, this is a very new mission for us because with the new inception of the United States Space Force, we are now the premier institution to also commission second lieutenants into the United States Space Force. I recently graduated just last year in April 2020, and we commissioned the first 81 officers into the brand new United States Space Force. That's a very new and exciting opportunity that those students have when they attend the Air Force Academy. And I'm going to talk about some of those opportunities later on as well. So we are currently ranked the #3 public college in the United States. Typically at the Air Force Academy, we are known for a lot of our STEM-based majors. For instance, aeronautical and astronautical engineering, obviously very highly ranked in those categories. But we offer a lot of great liberal arts degrees as well. I myself was a foreign area studies political science major. I was not very math or techie based, so to speak, but at the same time, students are going to get a lot of exposure to various courses just in the core curriculum that will give them an idea of what they may want to study moving forward. Here's a list of some of those majors and minors that we do have at the Air Force Academy. As you can see, it is very broad. It's not just STEM based. And we do have some new majors and minors to include this nuclear weapons and space warfighting minors. Those are now available, especially now that we have the new United States Space Force. We want to provide students with an opportunity to learn everything possible to maybe best prepare themselves for a role on active duty once they commission into the air and space forces. What's really cool is one of my favorite parts about the Air Force Academy is some of the opportunities that I had to travel and some of the immersion programs that we do have. Now, Lieutenant Walker, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know ROTC does have a lot of unique travel opportunities that you can also apply for. So this may be one of the mainstays that's actually awesome for both students that are in ROTC as well as at the Air Force Academy who have opportunities to pursue. I myself, because I was a foreign area studies political science major, I had a language minor in Portuguese, and that opened up some travel opportunities for me. For instance, I got to participate on something called Cadet Summer Language Immersion Program. I lived in Porto, Portugal for a month with a host family, immersed myself in their culture, learned the language at a private language school there in Porto. I had an absolute blast. I met people from all across the world. And of course, this was all paid for on the Air Force's dime. We don't just have travel opportunities like that. We can also study abroad or have their exchange programs to study at other universities. For instance, we can study at one of the other service academies or an ROTC exchange affiliate as well. We also have opportunities to study at civilian universities across the world, as well as foreign military academies. And then we have some other unique summer programs that allow you to travel as well through Cadet Summer Research, where cadets actually come up with their own research opportunities to pursue a lot of times that align with their majors that they're studying at the Air Force Academy. In the bottom of the screen right there, it's actually a good friend of mine, Jake Caparello, who got to work at Chick-fil-A corporate over the summer, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. That was an opportunity that he sought out himself, which is great because there's a lot of opportunities that cadets can kind of take upon themselves to take advantage of while they're at the academy and be funded for it at that. And then Operations Air Force, which I think is another great and important program that we do have that also ROTC students also have the opportunity to do. On Ops Air Force, you have a chance to get sent to an active duty air base across the world and shadow active duty Air Force officers in the career fields that they also do. This is oftentimes the first exposure for a lot of cadets to an active duty Air Force location outside of where they are, staying, or whether that's at the academy or at their ROTC affiliate universities. And this is a great chance to find out what interests them and what career fields they may want to pursue upon graduation as they commission as second lieutenant. I was very lucky and fortunate. I got to be sent to Misawa Air Base, Japan for my Ops Air Force experience. I got to fly in the back of a sweet F-16. It was a great experience, but that was also my first chance to see what it was like as a logistics officer, which is now the career field that I am currently in, and I will be a logistics officer upon my termination as an admissions advisor stint. And because of Ops Air Force, it provided me with the opportunity to really see what it was like for logistics officers and the work that they do. And a lot of other cadets have those same opportunities when they get to participate in these programs that the Air Force Academy and ROTC programs also have. But we also wouldn't be the Air Force Academy if we didn't have a lot of awesome airmanship opportunities as well. We have a lot of very unique airmanship opportunities that cadets are exposed to all 4 years while at the academy, whether it's during the academic year or during the summers, where oftentimes it's a bit easier to participate in some of these programs. For starters, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, we have a glider or a soaring aircraft. These aircrafts get pulled up by a tow plane. And once they are released from that tow plane, they are flying purely off of aerodynamics. It's an awesome opportunity, and usually cadets' first exposure to flying and aerodynamics in order to prepare themselves for career fields in the flying community. And cadets thoroughly enjoy their opportunities to be exposed to that. We also have powered flight program. The aircraft at the top hand portion of your screen, similar to a Cessna. It's a prop engine aircraft where cadets are actually paired with Air Force instructor pilots, earning valuable flight hours that they can use to apply towards an Air Force flying position, which is really cool and another unique opportunity in a different aircraft. And then what I think is the granddaddy of them all, Airmanship 490, the jump program where you get to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. It is one of few programs in the world where your first jump out of the aircraft is free fall solo, not tandem, not static line. We're going to teach you how to pull your ripcord and land safely to the ground. A lot of ROTC students actually every summer often apply for a lot of these airmanship opportunities to come visit the Air Force Academy and participate in these programs that we have directly on our campus, where cadets are teaching other cadets these awesome opportunities, maybe with the exception of powered flight, that is. But between the gliders and the jump program, cadets are teaching cadets to do a lot of great things at the academy, and they start with these airmanship opportunities. At the same time, if you're not interested in any of that, we have opportunities to expose you to UAVs or remotely piloted aircrafts to an extent, and then space and cyberspace opportunities, which are obviously very prevalent in the Air Force and the Space Forces. So we have summer programs to expose students to that as well. Upon graduation, there's a lot of different career fields or career paths that you may take. But at the same time, if you do want to pursue a career in aviation, the Air Force Academy arguably is the greatest place in the world to accomplish that. Just given the fact that we do receive a lot of pilot slots each and every year for our students. Over 50% of my graduating class receive pilot slots. Graduated about 965 students, over 500 students receive pilot slots, which is incredible. Now that we have the Space Force, we are expecting about 10% of each class to commission into the brand new Space Force. And another 10% of students are actually pursuing graduate school opportunities fully funded by the Air Force. Right now, I actually live in Cambridge, Mass. My two roommates are attending Harvard Graduate School as we speak, as commissioned lieutenants in the Air Force, and their post-secondary education is completely paid for by the Air Force. An incredible opportunity that they have, and a lot of our students do have, to attend a lot of great graduate programs upon graduation from the academy. These are some of the career field opportunities that we do have. Now, the minimum service commitment upon graduation from the academy is a 5-year service commitment, which I am currently serving as a logistics officer. A lot of career fields that are what we often call rated positions or flying positions accrue longer than a 5-year service commitment. And that's just because those career fields, they have a longer time in training that is required for those career fields. For instance, it takes about 2 years to become a pilot. It's a very long time to be in training. So for that, the minimum service commitment, I believe right now to be a pilot is at least 7 years. So that's some of the differences between the career fields that you see. And then the rightmost column, those career fields are specific to the degree that you may have or have graduated with coming out of the academy. It makes sense if you want to be an engineer in the Air Force that you were to have an engineering degree. And that's why those jobs are specific to some of those career fields that we also have that students are eligible for upon graduation. Now, with the new Space Force, we don't just have space operators that are commissioning into the Space Force. We have acquisitions officers, engineers, cyberspace and intelligence officers. With a lot of these other career fields that the Space Force is looking for, it provides students with some other opportunities to pursue a very new and exciting opportunity into a brand new military service. And I know students at the academy right now are receiving more and more information that even we had as we were approaching graduation just last year, learning about the Space Force and the possibility of commissioning into it. And again, it's very awesome that we now have this chance to maybe pursue a different path other than just commissioning into the Air Force. But this is what it's all about, and I'm biased, of course. We arguably have the coolest graduation ceremony in the world. No better feeling than throwing your parade cap up in the air and having the Air Force Thunderbirds fly overhead. This was a very special day for us, and it's a very special day for all the students that come to the academy and work so hard to get to that point 4, 5-year, however long it takes for them to get to that point upon graduation, finally commission as a second lieutenant and pursue the rest of their career after that. If you would like to apply, or if your students would like to apply in the future, academyadmissions.com is where they can find all of the information that they need to know about the Air Force Academy and its application process. Our pre-candidate questionnaire is finally open. Students can go to academyadmissions.com and start filling out the pre-candidate questionnaire. When they fill that out, they will wait to get upgraded to candidate status later on in the summer. The pre-candidate questionnaire, they just want to know basic information to see if you're eligible to apply. Are you between the ages of 17 and 23? Are you single without dependents? Are you a US citizen? Have you taken the SAT or ACTs yet? Based on that basic information, the majority of people that fill that out will get upgraded to candidate status, which is kind of the meat of the application process later on. Again, academyadmissions.com is going to have all of your information about the application process. But this is what it's about. When you come to the Air Force Academy, there's no tuition cost, there's no room and board. You have a guaranteed career coming out of the academy, which I can certainly say I'm extremely thankful for now, especially being close to my friends and family here in Massachusetts. A lot of my friends losing their jobs during the pandemic and being in the military, having this job security is something I maybe have taken for granted or never considered until a pandemic hit, of course. You do have medical and dental coverage while you're at the academy, and you receive a monthly stipend. It's pretty rare to say that you're getting paid to attend your undergraduate programs. And so this is the slide we often say is for the parents in the back of the room, because this is the one that they all care about and the students care about all the fun stuff in the beginning. But it's, it does come with a lot to offer, and more than just its benefits, you get a great education and a great career moving forward. So that's what I have. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I will stop sharing and I will pass it over to Sergeant Dvorak. Lieutenant Walker, hopefully I covered a whole lot, especially between the Academy and ROTC programs there.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Dvorak. I'm with the Air Force Officer Recruiting Office. I'm with the 318th Recruiting Squadron here in Burlington, Massachusetts. My program is different than Lieutenant Wood and Lieutenant Walker's programs. As mine, there is no scholarship. Mine's direct accessions, which means students that already have their bachelor's degrees or about to graduate. That's what I look for, and they come in directly as lieutenants. Can anyone see my screen? Sorry about that, technical difficulties. So to kind of discuss a little bit of the general requirements to become an officer, at least from my programs, talk about a little about the Air Force, the rated, non-rated, and technical. And most of these programs are the same jobs that were already spoken of, so I won't go too deep into them. Talk about the Space Force, our process, and any questions. So to become a direct accession, you have to have at least a bachelor's degree, and you could begin this process from mine. 365 days from your graduation with your bachelor's degree is when you can begin the process with me. So these are students that maybe decided not to continue with ROTC, didn't want to go through ROTC, and maybe heard from some friends, and they decide, like, you know what, maybe the Air Force is for me. And so the best time to kind of start that process is the end of their junior year, beginning of their senior year, because then they can begin the board process, and then they can get that, if they're selected, they can begin and get that date for officer training school right after they graduate. So that sweet spot is the end of their junior year, beginning of their senior year. And of course, for the age, it's for the rated, which are the pilots, the combat systems operators, air battle managers, and drone pilots. You have to be no older than age 33 at time of commissioning for the pilots, the combat systems operators, the air battle managers, and 40 for the drone pilots. For the non-rated positions and the technical positions in the Space Force, it's no older than age 40 at the time of commissioning. You must be able to pass a medical physical, which we'll schedule you for, pass the Air Force Officer Qualifying Test, and if you're going for the pilot or drone pilot, you have to pass a test called the TBAS test. And you also interview with our recruiting cannot talk this morning, recruiting service squadron commander. You must be of high moral character. And of course, and also a lot of students that might be in the Guard or the Reserve already, and we can work them. They just have to have a conditional release. So for the line officer programs, the rated is in the pilots, the combat systems operators, air battle manager, and drone. And you must have a passing AFOQT test, which we'll schedule you for. And you would start off as a second lieutenant, and you have to have a minimum GPA in your undergrad is a 2.5 or higher. And to be competitive, they want that 3.0. So if your students, of course, they tell them to work hard, they should be anyway going through school and get that high GPA to be the most competitive. And then of course, study, there's a lot of study guides for the AFOQT as well. And you also have to take a test called the TBAS, which would yield a score called the Pilot Candidate Selection Method score. And you have to have at least a 10. That's only for the pilot and drone pilots. The combat systems operators, airbound managers do not require that test. And for us, those positions are what I'm mostly looking for. That is the vast majority of applicants I'm looking for. Most students don't think they have to go through the Air Force Academy or they have to go through ROTC to become pilots. And yes, that's probably the easier route in some ways, but it's not the only way. Most applicants that call me, they want to go into the non-rated positions, which include like the intelligence, security forces, maintenance, logistics, or acquisitions. Those are considered the non-rated. And most of those positions are filled by the ROTCs and the academy. Traditionally, the last 2 years I've been here, they've canceled the non-rated board. We haven't taken any non-rated because they've been filled 100% through academy. Or ROTC. So if your students are only interested in those positions, their best chance is to go through ROTC. But if they want to become, but if they don't want to go that path and just decide, okay, to make it through ROTC, or I don't want to go through ROTC and change their mind, they can definitely apply through me for those rated positions. And with the non-rated, it's as the boards will always get canceled, but when they do poll, they are extremely competitive. So the GPA is 2.5. But you definitely want much higher than that. As the 1 year they actually had a line officer board, there was, for example, a lot of people want security forces. There was only 2 positions Air Force wide that we were hiring for. So again, we had like hundreds of applications for those 2 jobs. So extremely competitive. And for the technical degrees, those are any kind of STEM, like the engineering, chemistry, science, physics, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, those kind of jobs, those are also highly sought after positions. And those ones, there is no GPA requirement. As long as they graduate, there is no requirement to apply for that. And that is a board that never really gets canceled. So we're always looking for mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and especially going into the next career as Space Force, is of course that is our new branch. And of course right now they'd still work through me, as I'm still recruiting for the Space Force for the foreseeable future. So like there's a 13S Space Operations Officer that requires a STEM degree, but there's other jobs like acquisitions, intel, or cybersecurity that doesn't really require a certain degree, but they would still be considered non-rated, but they can apply for the Space Force. And those are more positions available for the Space Force non-rated than Air Force. And with those ones, you have to also have a passing AFOQT. And if you're applying for space operations, those technical degrees, once again, no GPA minimum. The other STEM degree, other line officer positions, I cannot talk, the non-rated, the intelligence acquisitions, if you're applying for Space Force, still have that 2.5 minimum GPA. Now, how the process actually works for me is, the step one is we'll get a call from an applicant. We'll go through the pre-qualifications and we'll hold a formal interview. We'll kind of get to know the applicant, get to know if they qualify, what programs they would be qualified for, and we kind of discuss the process with them. And if they want to move forward, we would get them scheduled for step 2. We would get them scheduled for the AFOQT and the TBAS test, if needed, as well as get their medical scheduled at the Military Entrance Processing Station, or MEPS. After we have a passing test scores and a passing physical, we would have them interview with a recruiting service squadron commander. So typically with our commander, it's a Lieutenant Colonel Balon. And once that interview is completed, we would start reviewing the letters of recommendation they may have, as well as the formal application they put together and any other documents they want us to submit. We put those together, review, and that's when you would submit to the board. And the boards typically meet in February and May, depending on the needs of the Air Force and what's all needed. And after it's submitted, those results for selection are typically released about 2 to 3 months after submission. This is a bit of a longer process, that because of it's about 12 to 36 months, about 12 to 48 month process, depending on their position and the needs they apply for. And if they are getting notification of selection, once they are selected, they would complete any kind of post processing, like the flight physical, background check, all that kind of stuff, make sure everything's good to go. And then we would get them scheduled for officer training school. And officer training school is held at Maxwell Air Force Base, and it's an 8.5-week long program. After that is completed, they would graduate as second lieutenants, and then they would go to their technical training. So my program is different, as it's a longer from high school graduates, because they have to complete that college. So it's not really a scholarship per se, but a lot of students, they think that they didn't make it through ROTC, or they kind of decided they wanted to join a little late. Like, for example, me, I was actually in ROTC my first freshman year of college, and then my sophomore year, then I decided that the Air Force isn't for me. Ironic, I know. Then after that, 1 semester out of ROTC, I said, I really miss the Air Force. I really want to do something. So I decided to enlist. And also, I never had any kind of understandings or briefings like this. So had I known about the line officer program, I probably would have opted to finish my college and apply for this OTS program. So I think that's a good thing. I try to get out to a lot of high schools and talk about that as well. So a lot of these students they might change their mind later, and they don't know this is an option that exists. So, with that, I'd like to open up to any questions. No questions? And I don't have my contact information on slide, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the chat below. And of course, if you have any students that are interested in officer positions, you can always have them reach out to me, or if they reach out to the enlisted recruiters, they can also give them my information as well. And thank you so much for your time. It was great meeting with you all today.